continues next Tuesday on BBC One, same time, 9 o'clock. And Debbie Horsfield, the writer of Cutting It, chats to Brian Alexander tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio 5 Live on 9:09 and 6:93 AM.
Nudity. The attraction is as old as mankind. In 20th century Vienna, Sigmund Freud unmasked the dominant influence of sexuality in our everyday lives. And now in the 21st century, television tries to boost its ratings with suggestive and arousing program trailers. Happily, some programs will never stoop so low.
Evening.
Have I got news for you? Friday at 9 on BBC One.
In the last 12 months, under cover of day and night, disguised and in public, in control and terrified. I've been shot at and attacked, and I have it all on camera.
My mother's gone!
Your man on the inside.
Getting out of here.
Only on BBC One, a brand new series of McIntyre investigates vice, drugs and street crime. From Thursday at 9 on BBC One.
This is BBC One in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. Now the news at 10 o'clock with George Alagaya and Ian White.
The French presidential race gets personal as the two rivals trade accusations. Chirac refuses a TV debate with the man he calls a peddler of hatred. Police find a female body in a river. It's close to where Amanda Dowler went missing. The timeshare cheat John Palmer is ordered to pay £35 million. The big game in Spain. Real Madrid win the first leg of the Champions League semi-final.
And on Look North tonight, gun row. Children are terrified as a teacher pulls out a starting pistol in a Leeds classroom. And controversy surrounds the start of the new cricket season in Yorkshire.
Good evening. Jean-Marie Le Pen, the surprise far-right challenger for the French presidency, has accused Jacques Chirac of an attack on democracy. That came after the French president refused to take part in a debate with his extremist challenger. The TV debates are something of a tradition in French elections. Thousands more have taken to the streets in a second day of nationwide protests as the French, from both the left and right, come to terms with Monsieur Le Pen's success in the first round.
Jacques Chirac's first outing since Sunday's cataclysmic events. Now that he's become the figure of national unity for France, the centrepiece of his speech in Rennes was to launch a ferocious attack on intolerance. For that reason, he said he'd not be going into a TV studio to debate with Jean-Marie Le Pen.
Que je n'ai accepté dans le passé d'alliance avec le Front National.
I've never compromised with the National Front. And Mr. Chirac went on, faced with intolerance and hate, there is no transaction, no compromise and no debate possible. And perhaps setting the tone for the next 2 weeks of campaigning, from Jean-Marie Le Pen, an immediate counterblast. Chirac's decision is intolerable, inadmissible and anti-democratic, he said. These left-wing students are taking no lectures from the leader of the National Front about democracy. This will be the first time that they've all voted. But forget idealism, they're having to learn the art of political compromise very quickly indeed. And so they're coming onto the streets to urge people to back Jacques Chirac.
It's a terrible choice, but I think it's a choice that we have to make without any hesitation, because if we don't vote for Chirac, we're going to have a big vote for Le Pen.
What does it mean to be a black person in France after Sunday's vote?
Well, you feel less welcome all of a sudden, but the young people, well, they are against it, and we are all against it. I think it's an old people's vote.
The demonstrations against Jean-Marie Le Pen and his National Front party are becoming ever more organised, and the people behind today's protest say they'll be on the streets every day between now and polling day on May the 5th. But for a second consecutive night, there was rioting on the streets by anti-Le Pen protesters, something the National Front leader will use to portray himself as a put-upon Democrat opposed by the mob. When it comes to campaigning, Jacques Chirac is no slouch either, but for years he's been plagued by a series of damaging financial scandals. And so for many in France, voting Chirac will be the most difficult thing they do. It's only that the alternative seems far worse. John Sokol, BBC News, Paris.
And John Sokol joins me now from Paris. John, I suppose one could argue that this is the sort of clash that was frankly so lacking in the first round.
Yes, George, what seems so remarkable is that this election moved from being one where there seemed to be absolutely nothing at stake, where the two main candidates seemed to agree on every policy, to one where everything is at stake. And listening to Jacques Chirac speak this evening, he was talking about the whole future of French democracy being decided in a couple of weeks' time when people go into the second round of voting. And we've seen a big increase in people registering for postal votes, a sure sign that people want to take part this time. And I suspect there'll be a big increase in the turnout on last Sunday when some 30% of people abstained, a record in France.
John, I see that Le Pen is going to take up his seat at